Hello, everyone, and welcome back here to the Sports Buzz podcast after months-long hiatus we've had. But overall, we're back, and there's a lot to talk about in Arizona sports, no matter what. And also, if you're watching this video, you'll also be able to see our new rundown of topics that you'll be able to see as we're going through the topics. But right now, even though it's been a long time since we did a podcast, and good to be back. I'm Caleb here with Wills, and Wills, it's good to be back for sure.
Yeah, it's great to be back since I think almost Christmas, actually.
Since Christmas, yeah. But overall, we've been posting on our page about the latest Arizona sports news, and definitely the biggest topic that's broken to all topics right now is NHL hockey, whether if it's just Coyotes or general just NHL. But we'll get into that first. As the Arizona first, there's about three topics to talk about: the Coyotes, where they're going to go in at least the next 3 years. They already said they already have a site picked out. They will not reveal where that site is, but it's likely to be Tempe out of Scottsdale or Phoenix. And what are your thoughts about that?
I think that's probably the smartest move possible for the Coyotes. I mean, the biggest problem with, I think, the Coyotes is like baseball. You know how there's 82 games in a season. There's games every day of the week almost, maybe with a one-day break. But with hockey, there's a lot of games, and for fans to drive all the way out to Glendale, it's really tough to catch a lot of games. And I think with the Cardinals, it's doable because there's one game a week. With the Coyotes, there's 2, sometimes 3 games a week at home. So I think it's really hard for fans to get out there. But if they move towards Tempe, it's more centrally located, and I think they're going to get a lot more fans there.
Yeah, no doubt. There was a lot of last year in May when the city of Glendale canceled their 15-year lease. There's a lot of Glendale citizens saying, hey, please cancel their lease, because even though there's a lot of Coyote fans, they're saying, well, they don't have to pay taxes to keep the arena lease. So, like, well, I mean, you're still going to have to pay for all the taxes that keep the arena up, whether if the team is there or not. Overall, it was just a bad situation. Obviously, the Coyotes are looking to move out of Glendale as soon as possible. Overall, I really wanted to see them move back to Phoenix and share a new arena with the Suns. It seems like that is not going to be happening, as it's less likely to be happening the whole time. But it really, it'll be interesting to move if they move to Tempe. I know it'll save me a lot of driving time to get to the games, and it's currently the site is Karsten Golf Course, the home of the former ASU golf team. There's also some places, the Scottsdale Drive-In near Casino, Arizona, and also Phoenix, but obviously we know that's not going to be happening. But there's just been a lot of talk about it. It also says this new arena will likely be financed with public and private funds, with the team covering at least 50%. So obviously the team's going to get 50% of the funding. Who's going to provide that other 50%? And then there's rumors that could be ASU, because Phoenix will not want to raise taxes. So they want to build an arena without raising taxes. So it makes perfect sense that this could be ASU on the list.
Yeah, and with ASU, the new hockey team, obviously they do have the Riverside Arena, I believe it's called.
It's called Oceanside Ice Arena.
Sorry.
It's actually near what could be the new site of the Scottsdale
Drive-In.
But
I mean, if ASU is funding half the facility, I mean, it's never going to be bad to play. You have professional facilities, especially for incoming recruits and stuff like that. Hey, we have these new facilities, it's top of the line. You know, the Arizona Coyotes play here. I mean, good weather for hockey kids. I mean, think about hockey. You think of cold weather, you think of snowstorms, you think of Minnesota, you think of Canada. But when you come to think of hockey now, you can think of Arizona, you can think of professional facilities. I mean, it's great for ASU too.
Oh, I'd love to see the Winter Classic or Stadium Series at Sun Devil Stadium. That would be amazing. But even though the Coyotes have already picked a place, they have also confirmed that they are working with AEG, an entertainment company that runs venues, who will be taking over Gila River Arena. We'll work with them at least to extend their current lease at Gila River Arena for at least the next 3 years until their new arena gets built. But obviously, I think it's going to be very exciting. It's definitely going to be a long wait, but I think that wait will be worth it. It's going to be, at that time when the new arena is built, it's going to be an exciting time to be a Coyotes fan, no doubt. But not only that, we also have some big news, not just on the Coyotes, but hockey here in Arizona. A reason why there should continue to be hockey here in Arizona. Austin Matthews, as from the past NHL draft, was picked #1, who played hockey, who's born here in Scottsdale, picked #1 by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Matthews has now only become the first player to be picked #1 from Arizona, but the entire Southwest, and that's something huge to brag about
And
for the state.
it sounds strange, but he's also the first number 1 overall pick to be born in America since Patrick Kane.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone who knows hockey knows who Patrick Kane is.
Yeah, from the Chicago Blackhawks, and also the guy who scored the Stanley Cup goal against Philly. I believe that was 2010, the Stanley Cup final. That was definitely a memorable one. And then also when the Coyotes picked 7th, they picked Clayton Keller. And like you said, Patrick Kane, Clayton Keller has been compared as the next Patrick Kane, believe it or not. And
Yeah.
obviously that's something huge to look forward to.
And I was listening to an interview with the general manager, the new general manager of the Coyotes. His name is slipping me, but they were saying he was not necessarily the position of need, but when they saw him on the board, they said, "Okay, this guy's way too good to pass up. We can't not draft this guy. The potential on him is through the roof." So, so they didn't necessarily need that position. I believe he's a defenseman, right? I didn't think he was a forward.
I don't have the facts with me right now, but I know he's just the GM.
Because I saw their draft. I believe they drafted 3 defensemen, which is their big needs in the offseason. They're still going to go after some free agents, but he is definitely a step for the future of the Coyotes.
Yeah, GM is John Chayeka or something.
27 years old too. It's incredible.
No, actually he's 26. 1 year
26.
off. But yeah, is the youngest GM though in the National Hockey League. It says here, and that's pretty crazy.
Shane Doan's been alive for I think 14 years longer than he has.
Wow. Oh wow, that's like crazy. But yeah, a lot to talk about. And then also on our last topic about the NHL, we know that as the NHL will enter into their 100th anniversary next year in fall of 2017, which will be our first year at ASU. Well, if you decide to go to ASU or not, I know I'm going to. But there will be a 31st NHL franchise that will be granted to the city of Las Vegas, and they will play at the new T-Mobile Arena, which just opened up this past spring. The team, I believe, will be owned by Bill Foley, who has obviously been pushing hard to get this new arena built. And this is obviously huge. I mean, there's always been talk, why doesn't Las Vegas have a professional sports team? Do you think it's time that Las Vegas becomes a professional sports town?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was about to say. I mean, I think a lot of people were really scared to put that first team there because of obviously the gambling that's allowed there and the type of people, I guess, the stereotypical fans or people that live in Las Vegas. But I think now that first team is there, I think we could see the Oakland Raiders move there, maybe the Chargers. And I think they could have a football team fall very soon.
Yeah, this is obviously huge. Now, obviously, there's talks that the Coyotes may move to Las Vegas, but now we know those rumors are officially gone now that we know that there's going to be an expansion team approved by the NHL Board of Governors. Overall, there's a lot of expensive fees that he's had to pay, but they're willing to take that risk. It's going to be exciting. I've been to Las Vegas a lot of times through my years growing up, especially when the Arena Bowl was there, and it's a nice city. There's definitely some ups and downs to it, no doubt, but I really think it's time. And when you look at gambling, I mean, with the technology we have today, you can online gamble anywhere. So honestly, I think this is the perfect time that Las Vegas becomes a professional sports team city. And not only that, this could start a huge rivalry with the Coyotes, considering these two teams are going to be closer than any other NHL team.
And not only Coyotes, but if the Raiders move there, it's going to give them the first, like, the Cardinals, one of the closest geographical rivals. I mean, now the LA Rams, but for the Coyotes too, what's the closest one? The Kings?
Yeah,
is that their closest geographical rival?
No, I'd probably say the Anaheim Ducks, barely, but they're kind of near the same area, near Los Angeles.
LA, yeah, so it's definitely going to give it gives like almost an ASU U of A rivalry where, you know, fans can go down to U of A, or you see at ASU games a lot of U of A fans come up, but it'll give the Coyotes a nice rival.
Oh yeah, definitely organized bus trips down there and back, no doubt. But obviously, I think this is a very exciting time for not only the National Hockey League, but for Las Vegas sports. It's about time that something like this definitely happens, no doubt. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a team that hasn't been in the spotlight much longer, the Phoenix Suns, and a bunch of other stuff like the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Rattlers to talk about. But we're going to take a break. You're listening to the Sports Buzz podcast on Arizona Sports Box. here on the Sports Buzz podcast here on Arizona Sports Box. I'm Caleb here with Wills here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Very hot here, by the way. So
Can't even step outside without sweating.
Oh my gosh, I love the heat. I don't know why people complain about it, but it's just so much fun to be a part of, you know? We're about to get to some thunderstorms here soon. Anyways, off the topic, going back on the topic of Arizona sports, we talked about the Coyotes. Now we're going to talk about a team that has been doing well, and obviously, if you know what I'm talking about, I mean the Phoenix Suns. The team finished off with a 23-59 record. And
if I'm correct, I believe that's the worst the Suns have ever done in the history of the franchise.
Either way, that's just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they also fired Jeff Hornacek during the middle of the season, which obviously this even points to even more bad signs. The Suns have not even been to the playoffs since the 2010 season.
Yeah, it's 6 years now.
6 years, and obviously this seems like a complete downfall of a franchise who used to be really good at some point if you look back to the 90s. But now you look at them now, and it just seems like, is there any light at the end of the tunnel at this point?
Yes, I believe so. Like you mentioned in the break, a lot of people disagree with the owner, but I think that Ryan McDonough, although he's been under a lot of fire for some of the trades and stuff that he's made with Isaiah Thomas and other players, I think this draft was mastermind. It was perfect. The big debate going into the draft was, at number 4, do you take Dragan Bender, or Marquise Chris? And I don't think anybody could have imagined that the Suns would come out with both players. They had 4 picks going into the draft with the Markieff Morris trade and a few other trades.
Yeah.
And so they took the number 4 pick with Dragan Bender, who they thought was a safe pick there. You know, Marquise Chris has a higher ceiling, but Dragan Bender is safe.
Yeah.
And they packaged some of those later picks and also some of their assets to move up to number 8 and drafted Marquise Chris as well. And so many GMs are just saying, Sacramento, what are you doing trading this to the Suns? But I think the Suns definitely get a pat on the back for having a terrible season, but they're trying here. They're not just sitting back, all right, draft this player, you know, whatever, he's the future. But now as a Suns fan, it's not going to be next year, maybe not the year after, but you know, you can look at the team. You have Devin Booker, who's a rising superstar, Alex Len, who's improved every year, and then these 2 guys coming in who have a lot of expectations. So as a Suns fan, not to get excited, but optimistic is the word.
Yeah, I definitely agree so. And obviously it's not been the best few seasons. Even the Suns' current owner, Robert Sarver, issued an open letter. If you're watching on the rundown, you'll be able to see this quote from part of the letter here. And he says that, unquote, "That said, we will likely miss the NBA playoffs for a 6th straight season this April. Many of you are disappointed in the lack of success, and for good reason. I can assure you that no one is more disappointed than I am, nor does anyone accept more of the blame." So obviously, when I looked at the response on social media about this, I saw the Suns fans were just non-impressed at all. And he did put this in a very professional way. I will agree with that. But overall, I mean, with everything, like Hornacek being fired, the players just not being good, I mean, who is really the person to blame for all this downfall? Who do you think?
I mean, a lot of people, the first time when the Suns made that deep run to the playoffs with Nash or Stoudemire and Sean Marion, they blamed D'Antoni because they're offense, and they couldn't play the defense. But this time around, I think it's Ryan McDonough. I think it's Robert Sarver. I think it's everyone. I think it's the front office, and I think it's a lot of times the players too. Because if you look at the cancers like Markieff Morris, Marcus Morris, and some of those players, I mean, they were cancers on the team. But not only the players, I mean, the front office with their intentions. They tried to get LaMarcus Aldridge this summer, and they signed Tyson Chandler to this huge contract, and LaMarcus Aldridge didn't come. So as a Suns fan, you're sitting here saying, all right, we have this washed-up player with a huge contract on his hands. What are we going to do now?
Yeah, no doubt. And not only that, it's just you look at a team in the early 2000s, and I think it went in the early 2000s, the downfall kind of starting to fall. And they had some pretty good seasons. 2010, I mean, there's a point where they got up to the Western Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. They dominated the Spurs in the semifinals, if I'm correct, one year.
Yes.
And then they
lost
just got
lost
to the Lakers in Game 6. And this is a team that, if you go back to their history in the 80s and the 90s, when Jerry Colangelo, who was arguably probably one of the number one legendary figures in Arizona sports.
Still one of the most favorite
Yeah.
Arizonans in the state.
Yeah, and under his leadership, I mean, they didn't win any championships, but they were definitely, during the regular season, one of the most respected, competitive NBA teams. And you look at it today, and it just seems like some kind of a joke. And, I mean, definitely there's always going to be bad seasons, but it doesn't seem like there's ever going to be a good season anytime soon.
I think it's scary as a Suns fan when you start thinking of teams that are bad in sports. You think, all right, baseball, there's some teams that are never good. The Indians, who actually are having a great season this year, but teams that you think of are consistently bad. The Indians, the Kings in the NBA, the Browns in the NFL. And as a Suns fan, 6 straight years without the playoffs, you don't want to become one of those teams. You want to get in there,
no doubt.
and you don't only want to lose in the first round to the Warriors or the Spurs or the Thunder, but you want to have a team that can make a run. And I know a lot of fans are impatient because that's just how sports are today. But as a Suns fan, you need to realize it's not happening overnight.
Oh, no doubt. And I definitely hope, but even if Sarver doesn't sell the Suns, which I'm pretty sure he won't be selling anytime soon,
No.
but what do you think the Suns need to do to get back on that road that they used to be on?
A lot of people might disagree with me, but I think Ryan McDonough is the key. He's a great drafter. Devin Booker, prime example of last year. We'll see with Dragan Bender and Marquise Chris. But and I think a hidden gem was Tyler Ulis, his buddy, Devin Booker's buddy out of Kentucky. He's very underrated, and he was actually SEC Player of the Year last year. He's just undersized. He's 5'9", out of Kentucky. So I think Ryan McDonough knows what he's doing, and although he's made some shaky roster moves, I think they need to stick with him because he's a very bright mind who had success in Boston before.
Yeah, no doubt. And speaking of the NBA, we haven't gotten a chance to get to this topic. It's not too late to talk about it now, but wow, what an NBA Finals end it was. I'm not a Cleveland fan, but I will say they did kind of get the job done. I am starting one of the reasons why I'm not really that big of an NBA fan anymore is that sometimes we're following a script where to the point it's not real. And in Game 6, there's a lot of conspiracies that the refs may have caused a bunch of unnecessary calls to Golden State to try to force a Game 7. Honestly, it's just unknown, but that's just a conspiracy.
I agree there's some unfair calls. I watch every minute of every game of the series, but I heard a great point on the radio. It said, yeah, you can complain with the calls, but at the end of the day, if you think it's rigged, win the game.
Yeah.
What can they do if you hit your shots, you win the game, and you're better than the other team that night? The refs aren't going to add points to the other team's scoreboard. Win the game.
Yeah, and it's like at one of those points, I mean, even though Golden State, like wherever they want to point the blame to, whoever's fault it is, point is they didn't get the job done.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point. You couldn't get it done, but overall, if I'm right, the Cleveland Cavaliers came back from 3-1.
First team ever.
First team ever to do that.
In the NBA
and
Finals.
that's just incredible to see a comeback like that.
And another great point I heard is, imagine how much scrutiny LeBron James would be under if they had lost that finals. Has anyone pointed the finger at Steph Curry, back-to-back MVP, first ever unanimous MVP this year, and he choked in the playoffs? He had a bad last series in the NBA Finals. But where's the finger pointing at Klay Thompson, Draymond Green for getting suspended?
Oh, yeah.
They're kind of all letting him off the hook, saying, wow, what a great job by Cleveland. But does anybody look at Golden State saying, excuse me, you're up 3-1 and you're the best team ever in regular season history?
Yeah, and it definitely, it's always one of those games when you see a championship celebrated on someone else's court.
Yeah.
You don't want to be witness to that. With any kind of sport, it's always not fun to be a part of. But overall, that's how things goes. But I got to say, I mean, I'm not really a LeBron James fan, but they definitely earned that championship.
For sure.
It was a well-fought series. I thought Golden State had the chance to at least close it out. What was it, 3 times? 3 games. They had a chance to close it out.
Twice at home.
Failed all 3 times, and it's just shocking to me.
Another stat that will pile onto that. They haven't lost 3 consecutive games since, I believe it was 2014.
Oh, yeah.
And they lost 3 in a row in the finals. It's incredible.
It's incredible to see a comeback like that. It's just, that's something that you'll see on talking about for the next 20
Forever.
years. And I wish that would happen with some other team because I am not a Cavaliers fan. I'm not really a big fan of the NBA, but definitely don't like the Cavaliers. But even though whether you like them or not, they definitely had a great first championship. That's been a long time since Cleveland has ever won a professional championship ever. So definitely congrats to them. When we come back, we're going to talk about another team that's fallen a lot, the Arizona Diamondbacks, on what was supposed to be their World Series year, and it doesn't seem like it at this point. And we'll also talk about the Arizona Rattlers and ASU Sun Devils and the Cardinals, all coming up. You're listening to the Sports Buzz podcast on Arizona Sports Box. All right, and we're back here on the Sports Buzz podcast here on Arizona Sports Box. Moving on from the topic of the Phoenix Suns. Also got the Arizona Rattlers to talk about their season. Last time we talked in Christmas, we were projecting their season, and now their season has already been in full swing. They're currently 8-3, number one in the National Conference, and currently in the driver's seat to get a good playoff spot. They obviously just got a win this past weekend, if I can find out who it is, against LA, of course. 64-49 on the road. Their 8th straight win against the LA Kiss. LA Kiss has never beaten the Arizona Rattlers ever.
Since being a new team.
Since being a new team. And
I'm sorry, watching that game, I watched a little bit of it. I cannot stand LA's field. Oh, my gosh.
the gray field.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. I feel insulted because that was my father's idea, actually. But no,
Hey.
it was actually supposed to be dark gray, but it came out light gray. So, but it's definitely if you go to an LA Kiss game, it's definitely transforms the way you go to a sports game, mixing in entertainment with sports, and it's a great combination. And overall, I mean, the team hasn't been good, but I will say the LA Kiss has improved this year, and I'll look at the record here, but in a moment. But the LA Kiss, they've already gotten more than 2 wins, which is obviously that's instant improvement. Currently, they're 4-5. That's not the best record right now, but it's an improving record to the past few years. I'll say that, and it's a growing process. When you're an expansion team, it takes a while.
Hey, unless you're the Arizona Diamondbacks winning it 2 years after you've been in the league in 2001.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We came in 99 and we won in 01.
Currently hold the record the fastest expansion team to win a championship in any sport, which is mind blowing for sure. But obviously, just huge to see something like this. And the Arizona Rattlers Currently, they're sitting at number 1 in the National Conference. Although currently they're fighting to get a playoff spot. They already beat rivals like Philly, and then they got Orlando coming up here in just a few weeks. There's also who will get the number 1 seed, Arizona, Orlando, Philly, or any other team. And currently, Arizona is currently beating those odds right now. And the Rattlers currently are trying to find a chance to host the Arena Bowl right here in Arizona, which I know would be huge. Last time they hosted the Arena Bowl in 2011 was against the Jacksonville team, against my uncle's team, and they won off of the last play of the game, which was just jaw-dropping.
Incredible game.
And obviously to have an atmosphere like that, and that's not very often you see at Talking Stick Resort Arena, a full house.
No.
You don't see
The
that.
Suns aren't.
Even the Suns can't do that sometimes. And the fact that the Rattlers are able to have a game like that, even though they didn't win it, was just such a fun experience. Not something you usually see since the 2001 World Series, to have a huge atmosphere like that. So it's definitely interesting. But overall, the Rattlers are going to be playing. They're currently sitting on a bye week after beating the LA Kiss. And then they're going to be back at home the following week to take on the Jacksonville Sharks at home at Talking Stick Resort Arena. It's overall been a good season. And what are your thoughts so far on this season? Have you seen a lot?
As you know, arena football, not the most knowledgeable person, but I mean, the Rattlers, they had the three-peat, which was, I believe, 2 years ago. It was the last championship, and since then they haven't won. So, I mean, there's 10 teams, I believe, in the arena football league. So I think the Rattlers need to reestablish their dominance. I mean, Davila's still the head at quarterback, and he's still great. So I think the Rattlers need to keep that train moving.
Yeah, no doubt. They're obviously doing a good job. They got a bye week, and then they're going to take on Jacksonville and then Orlando. So they're going to have back-to-back home games, which will be an exciting schedule. We'll definitely keep an eye on that on our Arizona Sports Box Facebook page, as we'll keep updating you on that. But transitioning into a topic, it's going to be a long shot until this season comes up, but the ASU Sun Devils, obviously a lot of currently number one thing they're focusing on is recruiting. Who's going to be the quarterback, since Burko is now alumni. At this point, what does the future look ahead to for the Sun Devils?
Well, actually, the recruiting class has been incredible. One of my friends from Saguaro, his name's Kyle. Him and 2 other buddies committed. And it was the first time 3 players from the same school have committed on the same day to Arizona State. So that was a big upside, because one of the biggest things for ASU was they've never been able to recruit in-state, get those stars from in-state. But now they got N'Keal Harry from last year, the number 1 receiver actually in the nation. They were getting recruits from Saguaro. They're getting some kids from Brophy. They're getting Chandler. I mean, the Arizona State's finally pointing around when it comes to recruiting. And then also, sorry, I forgot to mention Ryan Kelly, the guy, the quarterback from Basha. He decommitted from Oregon and committed to Arizona State. So,
wow, that's a big loss for Oregon.
Although they're kids coming out of high school, so you never know what's going to happen. They could be complete busts. But someone looks at these players and rates them. So, I mean, Arizona State's doing the right thing when it comes to recruiting. Now it just comes to the coaching and putting those players on the field in the right spots.
Yeah, and it's been a tough season. We didn't get the chance to talk about this, but the Cactus Bowl, wow. That was just
depressing.
Something I just didn't see coming. I was on a cruise in the middle of the ocean watching that, and that was just tough to watch, especially when you're hosting it in Phoenix, which was a tough year. Overall, I mean, I'm looking forward to this season. Last year was probably not the best in Sun Devil history, not the worst, but not the best. And not only that, this season, the College Football National Championship will be played in Tampa Bay. And also the Fiesta Bowl, along with the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, will serve as the 2 playoff semifinal games, which will be exciting as well. And not only that, the biggest thing to look forward to this season is Phase 2 of the renovations at Sun Devil Stadium, which will be complete by this fall, which obviously, last time I looked at that, what they're doing is half of the stadium is going to be renovated, and that side has already been sold out for the home opener.
Wow.
Which is exciting to see improvements like that. But what do you think of Sun Devil Stadium? It's such a historical venue of it growing.
I've seen pictures. It looks absolutely incredible. I mean, Arizona State's done a great job so far. Obviously, the field's not in, but the stands look incredible, and I'm very happy to call myself a Sun Devil fan.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely and not only that, seeing all the construction, like, how are they going to get this done by September.
And sorry to switch gears on here a little bit. As an ASU fan, we're our Arizona Sports Box. We do have to talk about U of A baseball. I know we kind of skipped over that in the baseball segment, but they're going for the College World Series tonight. In about 20 minutes, they're going to go for.
I mean, I would talk about U of A Wildcats if they represented Arizona, but
they're going for the national championship tonight.
I will say that is a pretty good team. I'm not into college baseball a lot, but I know they're in a chance one game away from winning the College World Series.
Yeah, the game starts at 5 o'clock tonight, so it's win tonight. And
by the time our listeners hear this, they'll already know who won.
Yeah, so.
But obviously, if you're listening to this, it's obviously just before the College World Series, and it's knowing me as a Sun Devil fan, and I hope the Wildcats. Who are they playing against? Coastal? No, that was ASU's opponent. Who are they playing against the College World Series?
They're playing Coastal Carolina.
Coastal Carolina.
Two
wow.
Cinderellas.
Dang. So that I haven't heard Coastal Carolina, that school, since they got into the March Madness tournament and had a pretty good run a few years ago. But that's just college basketball. But overall, I mean, when you look at ASU's baseball team, they were like the D-backs had high expectations and then kind of fell apart, which obviously is not always bright to see, but you never know what could happen. But definitely best of luck to the Wildcats. But even though the Wildcats have a chance at the College World Series, I have to point this out, that ASU has beaten U of A in most of all college sports for the past at least 2 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe winning championships is a different thing, but at least we can say U of A is an unbeatable team to any ASU sport. So that's very exciting. Interesting. But now that pass from college sports, we go to the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals, as last time we got on this topic, it was pretty tough end to the season against Carolina. This team goes from a huge win against Green Bay, makes national headlines. Then the following week against Carolina, they go from the most embarrassing loss I've ever seen.
But as a Cardinals fan, I mean, obviously we got absolutely hammered in the NFC Championship. But a lot of teams look at Carolina. This team was, I believe, 2 losses in the regular season, and they lost arguably their second best player and Josh Norman, their best defensive player. But the Cardinals, they didn't say, okay, we were there, we just need to win that game. They went out and said, okay, we need to improve here, here, and here. They traded for Chandler Jones, one of the best outside linebackers in the NFL. They signed an offensive tackle, and the draft. I mean, they're gonna have a great season.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And then the Carolina Panthers, even though they beat Arizona at home to claim the NFC title, they lost against the Denver Broncos 24-10 at Super Bowl 50, and that would later be known as Peyton Manning's final game in the NFL. Definitely. Historical game since that was the 50th anniversary. Overall, looking ahead to this season, do you think the Cardinals' odds are looking good as a Super Bowl contender?
So early to tell, but I mean, the Patriots are always going to be there. I think the Steelers got unlucky last year with injury, but the Cardinals are definitely the favorites in the West. Although, I'm as a Cardinals fan, I've always been scared of the Seahawks. Don't ask me why, but the Seahawks scare me.
Seahawks. I can't stand that team. And we have too many Seahawk fans here in Arizona.
Very true.
Oh my gosh, it's like
too many. Weed them out.
Too many. But overall, I mean, we had a good season against Seattle because we beat them on their home turf. And wow, to see Carson Palmer do a dance like that on national television was just hilarious.
Drew Stanton, actually.
Drew Stanton, yeah. And that was just because after all those times Seattle's beaten us on our home turf, it was nice to actually have it reversed for once in a while. That was interesting. And also getting to the topic of the NFL, which is obviously a little old topic, but we'll still get into it. They revealed 3 more sites to the Super Bowl. So obviously we know that Houston will host it this upcoming year in 2017 at NRG Stadium, the Texans' home. And then the following year, we already know this, Minnesota, US Bank Stadium, the new home of the Vikings, which that's a very interesting location because it's so cold there. I don't know how I know the stadium's going to be enclosed and the weather's not going to affect anything, but when you're having festivities like that in such a cold area, I just want to see how they're going to be able to get that done.
It's a new era of sports, and every sport is getting a dome. I mean, D-backs have a dome for baseball. The Cardinals have a dome. I mean, obviously, all NBA teams have a dome, but
Yeah.
every NFL team now, all the new stadiums have domes.
Yeah, it definitely. Except for MetLife Stadium, they don't have a dome, and it's such a
cares?
cold area. Who
cares
knows?
about New Jersey?
Anyways, here's the new 3 sites. Super Bowl 53 will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, which will serve as the new home of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, what I like about this new stadium is that this isn't just going to be any retractable roof stadium. It's it's a circle roof,
Yeah.
and it opens up like a puzzle, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a Halo Jumbotron, which is going to be amazing. It just changes the way, how future is growing in sports, which is obviously exciting. There's rumors, I can't remember why, but what the NFL was considering moving it away from Atlanta due to a bathroom law, which obviously I don't like when sports get very political. Overall, point is that they got the Super Bowl there. Super Bowl 54 will be back in South Florida at Miami and February 2nd, 2020. But that we understand they've hosted so many Super Bowls. There's going to be new renovations to help improve the stadium. Miami is a great city. Let's just hope it doesn't rain
Yeah.
the day of the game. But overall, and then Super Bowl 55, which I'm excited for this one. First time ever in such a long time that will return to Los Angeles in the new, what is called for now, the City of Champions Stadium in Inglewood, California, which will serve as the new permanent home of the LA Rams, which is obviously exciting to see LA back in sports. But overall, I have all these 3 sites, Atlanta, Miami, and Los Angeles, being added in the next 5 years. I mean, which site is going to be the most looking forward to?
I think LA. I mean, the newest arena. It's going to be state of the art. I think it's the second most expensive stadium ever to Jerry World in Dallas.
Oh yeah,
But it's going to be
stadium.
state of the art. I mean, it's going to be incredible. Obviously, Atlanta has a great stadium. So does Miami. But LA is going to be geographically close, and I'm just looking forward to seeing games in that stadium be played.
Yeah, and they haven't even started construction for the stadium yet, and they already booked a Super Bowl, which is pretty interesting. They obviously have a lot of confidence that they know that this is going to be a new state-of-the-art facility, no doubt. Very exciting for this, the NFL growing tremendously. Couldn't be more excited. Also, one more topic I want to get to before we bring this podcast to a close. Like you said earlier, when we were talking about Las Vegas getting professional sports, the Oakland Raiders say they will move there if taxes for $500 million in fees like that. Do you think, I mean, obviously no one wants to pay higher taxes, but do you think Oakland should move to Las Vegas?
I've never really been a fan of expansion teams, although I was in favor of LA moving because of the distance, but I don't know. I know Las Vegas is a lot closer than Oakland, but I really don't think football in Las Vegas, although I think it will happen, I am not in favor of it.
Not in favor of it?
No.
Oh, well, we'll see what happens. But other than that, I mean, definitely this is not going to be a bright future ahead for Oakland, California. Either way, if the Raiders decide to go to Las Vegas or not, it seems like they're looking to get added there. Golden State's going to be gone sooner or later because they're moving to a new arena within the next 2 or 3 years in San Fran. So it's definitely, Oakland will be a soon former sports town, which is not very good to say. But overall, just never know what could happen. And definitely it's an interesting future ahead for sports, no doubt. But very exciting. But other than that, as we bring this podcast to a close, and we'll be back next week, even though you'll be on vacation. And what are your thoughts going into next week, if any topic going on in sports to look forward to, other than the Mountcats?
Yeah, I was going to
We'll
say
want to talk about that.
College World Series. I think we got to keep up with NBA news with the free agents. Kevin Durant, obviously, that's a big one. We didn't talk about that.
Kevin Durant.
He's going to be a big name in free agency where he takes his meetings. Dwight Howard.
Teams negotiating to try to get him. He's a huge free agent.
Yeah, and we also didn't talk about a lot of basketball with Derrick Rose being traded and a lot of things. So I think basketball right now is kind of in the forefront. Football, there's still a few free agents. I believe I just got an update, actually. The Seahawks re-signed Doug Baldwin to a very large contract.
Oh,
I think a lot of it's going to be free agents and little off-season moves for a lot of the Arizona teams like the Cardinals and the Suns.
Going to be very exciting. Well, it's going to be
actually, sorry, one last thing. I think hasn't been done yet. The Coyotes need to re-sign Shane Doan.
Shane Doan. He's a how do I say this? He's a great captain, but the last time we signed him and a lot of teams tried to get him, I don't think he's just that effective to the team anymore.
Well, he did lead the team in goals last year.
He
did. And he's the captain and the leadership, the veteran.
But still, I mean, it's not like we're seeing – this team hasn't been to the Stanley Cup playoffs in a while. So you can be the most leading goaltender, but at the end of the day, it's about winning games, not scoring goals. Because at the end of the game, whoever wins has the most goals ahead of you. So overall, I mean, Shane Doan is how long has he been on the team? Like you said earlier,
I think he's 40 years old. I think he's been on the team for like –
I know he's been on the team since the Phoenix
forever.
days, like when they used to play in Phoenix, which is wow, like such a long team captain. Do you think Doan, I mean, as from a player standpoint, do you think is it time for him to go to another team? Or
no, I think he's going to retire if the Coyotes don't re-sign him. He's been with the Coyotes forever. I mean, I think the Coyotes need to re-sign him. Though, like you said, you don't think he's effective, but I personally, he was leading the teams in goals, so I don't think he needs to do that again. I think that's a sign of struggles for the Coyotes. But I think he needs to be there in a leadership role at least for the Coyotes.
No doubt. So, all right, well, that is going to do it. We'll have more to talk about this next week. And also keep an eye out on our Facebook page. We'll be updating around Arizona sports on our Facebook page, Arizona Sports Box, or the Sports Buzz podcast. And that is going to do it for Wills Rice. I'm Caleb Bishop saying goodbye for now. You've been listening to the Sports Buzz podcast on Arizona Sports Box.